This is a story from Scotland, but because I'm English and I don't have the Gaelic, I'm going to have to leave the names in English because I can't get my tongue around Gaelic names. So this is a story from the Western Isles, a story about the Kelpie. This is a long time ago, when magical creatures still roamed the earth, and some of them had ill intent towards humans. The chieftain's sons sailed from the Western Isles with their shield bearer, but the shield bearer was the only one of the young men to return. So the chieftains of the Isles gathered together and they asked the shield bearer what it was that had happened and why had he returned and why was his left hand bandaged. They had sailed to a small island. They had beached their boat and found there on the sand the most beautiful white horse that anyone could imagine. A white horse who seemed to glow in the dark in the way that the full moon glows in the dark sky. And the horse seemed to be inviting them to climb up onto his back. And as they did so, there seemed to be space for all of them. And the shield bearer, being the lowest in rank, was the last man to climb up onto the horse, so he was sort of perched perilously on the rump. And so the chieftain's son who sat at the front of the horse had his hand wrapped in the white silky mane. And then each man had a hand on the man in front until the shield bearer had simply his left hand on the man in front of him. And the shield bearer tried to slide off the horse's back and found to his horror that his hand was stuck and he couldn't dismount. And it was then that the shield bearer realised what the beautiful moonlight white horse really was. And he took his hunting knife and cut off the fingers of his left hand, and thus freed of the magic, he slid off the horse's back, and somehow, even with his damaged hand, the shield bearer managed to return home, and thus it was that he told the chieftains of the fate of their sons, that the Kelpie, for of course such was the white horse, the Kelpie, had galloped into the sea with with the young men still stuck fast to his back and had disappeared beneath the waves, leaving only the shield bearer. One of the chieftains had brought his druid with him, and it was the druid who said, "We need magic. We need the help of the blind one." And so the shield bearer went to the blind magician and asked for his help. And the magician said, "We need faith. Place your damaged hand in the water of my cauldron." And the shield bearer looked at the hot water that was bubbling away on the fire, but he had faith in the magician, so he placed his damaged left hand in the hot water, but there was no pain. And when he drew his hand out, found that all the fingers had grown back, for such is the power of magic. In a few days' time it will be Halloween. It will be the night when the thin veil which separates this world from the other world is always at its thinnest, and it is midnight. on Halloween that we will have our best chance of reclaiming the souls of the chieftain's sons. I will wait for you on the beach. So the shield bearer returned to his own home, and it was then that he found the courage to propose to Flawless, the sister of one of the chieftain's sons, sister of the young man that the shield bearer served, for he loved her very much, but Flawless said she would not marry a mere shield bearer, and anyway she was in love with someone else. For some time before she had met on the beach a man who was tall and handsome and seemed to glow like the moon. He had perfect white skin, long white hair and green eyes. And Flawless was singing a song of unrequited love. And the young man began to cry, and so a tear just fell. Flawless reached out, wiped away his tear, and it fell just over her heart, and from that moment on she was enslaved. You've already worked it out, haven't you? You know what Flawless didn't, that the young man with his moonlit skin was really a Kelpie. And now Flawless was enslaved to him, and they met every day on the beach. And the Kelpie, the young man, said to Flawless, "At sunset I must always leave you. If ever you find me still asleep when the sun is starting to set, wake me." But there came a day when the two of them lay in each other's arms in their slumber, and the sun had started to set. Flawless woke first, but she looked at her lover, and he looked so peaceful in his sleep. She didn't dare to wake him, so when she opened her eyes again, she found not her handsome lover, but a white horse whose skin was green and slimy. And she found that her braid, which had been wrapped in the hands of her lover, was now wrapped around the front hoof of the Kelpie, for she knew now that that was what he was, and she took her knife and cut off her braid and ran as fast as she could away from him. So, at Halloween, a great feast was held, and there was music and dancing. And the shield bearer asked Vanity to dance with him. Now, Vanity was well named, and she had her sights set on marrying a prince or marrying a king, and she scorned the advances of a mere shield bearer. But when Flawless saw her handsome former lover there, and he asked her to dance with him, she said she would dance with him on one condition, that he would return the souls of the chieftain's sons. That was her brother and his companions. So the Kelpie agreed. And they danced. But before midnight, the Kelpie disappeared to his kingdom beneath the waves, and he spoke to the king of the seals. And he said, "Prepare to release the souls of the young men." And the king of the seals did so. And so it was. And so it was that at midnight all the young men appeared out of the sea and walked towards the magician and towards the shield bearer. And so it was that the Kelpie took back with him to his kingdom beneath the sea vanity. And I think possibly she's there still, serving the Kelpie and polishing his coral throne. And as for the shield bearer and Flawless, of course they married. And I hope that later, when their children were born, they remembered to tell the children the story of the Kelpies and the dangers of the creatures that live deep in the water.